Good evening, everyone. We are going to wait just a minute or so. We have one commissioner that took a quick restroom break, and we have one commissioner that's coming in the parking lot, so we'll just be just a minute. Just a little information for anybody in the audience that if your case is heard and it's over with, you're more than welcome to leave. You're more than welcome to stay and hear the remaining cases, but you're also more than welcome to leave if you want to. It won't hurt our feelings any. Good evening, everybody. We will call this meeting to order. This is the City of Roswell Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Tuesday, June 22nd, here in the Convention Center. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Lopez.
Present.
Commissioner Henderson.
Here.
Commissioner McCormack. Commissioner Lassard is absent. Commissioner Aguilar.
Present.
Commissioner McDaniel.
Present.
Chair Story.
Here.
We have 6 commissioners present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Now we have an agenda for tonight's meeting in front of us. Kevin, is this when you would like to speak about something?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Just a couple of housekeeping items real quick before we approve the agenda. You'll notice tonight that there was originally 5 items on the agenda. Last month we had 3 or 4 items on the agenda, and we ended up having to postpone several of those. The postponements were primarily due to a lack of information being provided to city staff in a timely fashion, and we are left with no choice but to postpone or pull items from the agenda. Later on this evening, we are going to be discussing a particular policy statement that we would like to talk to you all about the quantity and type of information that we need to be gathering so that we can put together a proper staff report, that we can issue proper conditions of approval, and so that you all can make a appropriate and knowledgeable decision about the cases that are being presented before you. So again, we wanted to apologize real quick for the fact that you do have 5 items. 3 of those, items 1, 2, and 3 right at the top, we are requesting postponements so that we can continue to work with the applicants on appropriate conditions of approval.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
we
sir.
need to swear in.
You want to?
It's
Okay.
up to you.
Yeah, go right ahead.
For all those that are here this evening that'll be giving testimony and appearing before the commission, I need for you to stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury? You may be seated.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson, for keeping me on line there. Okay, so we have the agenda. We've had an explanation on the agenda. It doesn't change the agenda. at this point in time, so if I could have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'd like to approve make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Saul and a second by Steve to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And I'm going to add something in here right now before we go to the approval of minutes. I just want to welcome our new planning positions, Planner 2, Spencer Aiken, and our planning intern, Austin Ford.
Welcome.
Welcome, you guys.
Welcome.
Now we have approval of the minutes from the May 25th, 2021 P and Z regular meeting minutes. I have one correction. If I could find it. What'd you do with it, Meredith? Right here. It's on... Well, I can't find it. Oh, here it is. It is on the part about case 21007, the request for change in zoning. Down in the narrative, we have Commissioner Lassard recused herself from case 21007, and then we have where the motion passed by a voice vote of 7-0. Obviously, Commissioner Lassard could not voice a vote, so that should be changed to 6-0. Other than that, did anybody else have any comments or questions or changes to the agenda? If not, I'll accept the motion, please.
So are we approving the minutes or the agenda?
The minutes
The minutes.
from the May 25th, 2021 meeting.
I would move that we approve those minutes for the May 25th meeting.
Second.
Got a motion by Steve and a second by Jesse to approve the minutes from the May 25th meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes with the change as mentioned. Okay, so we will move to public hearing items. Meredith, I'm assuming you would like a motion for each case to postpone until, we want to postpone indefinitely, or are we talking about postponing till the next meeting, or how do you all want to handle this?
I'd like to postpone until the cases are ready to be brought forward.
So in that case, do we call it a postponement, or do we table for an indefinite period of time?
The city attorney asked us to request postponement.
Okay. Okay, so we have public hearing item 2101 is a zone change for zoning, and they have request to postpone. If I could have a motion, please. I think you have to do them separate.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone case 21-010 ZOC.
Second?
Got a motion by Saul and a second by James to postpone case number 21-010 until further notice. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Passes.
Excuse me, Chair Story.
Yes.
Who was the second?
James.
Okay, thank you.
Now we have case number 21-011 is a similar postponement.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone case 21-011 ZOC.
Second.
It was the second?
Jesse.
Jesse.
Hello, Jesse. How you doing down there? We got a motion by Saul and a second by Jesse to postpone case number 21-011. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We have also a case for 21-012 with the request to postpone. If I could have a motion, please.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone case 21-012 P. Blatt.
Second.
We have a motion by Saul and a second by Steve to postpone case 21-012. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Now we will hear case number 21-009, a variance, which is a request for a variance to a side yard setback and distance from on-site structures for an in-ground swimming pool. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of case 21-009? Meredith, would you like to speak one way or the other, or what?
Excuse me, Commissioner Chair Story, do we need to waive a reading of findings of facts?
We could.
Okay.
You guys have so many rules.
For real.
You guys have a motion, please, to waive the reading of the findings of facts and the land use and zoning considerations?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Jesse and a second by James to waive the reading of the findings and facts and land use and zoning considerations. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, now, is there, are you good, or?
We do. If you don't mind, I could just maybe run through these slides really quickly and then.
Sure.
Okay. So this is case 21-009. It's a variance request for a rear yard pool, a backyard pool, and it's a small lot. It's only 100 by 40, so 40 feet wide by 100 feet. There's a garage in the backyard that takes up 10 feet of the 40 feet width, and so there needs to be a few variances to a yard setback of 1 foot and distances from the structures, both the house and the garage. And then the rear yard setback coverage is only allowed to have 40% coverage in our zoning ordinance. And the rear yard setback is that area that's 20 feet deep, from the fence into the yard and by the width of the yard. So the garage takes up some of that already, and the pool will take up a lot more. So you can see it's a small lot. It's an R2 lot, and it's a townhome. So it has an adjoining wall to the property to the north. And there's a site plan that shows what we're requesting. So the rear yard setback is okay. We need about a foot on the side, and then the distance from the garage to the pool and the house to the spa, we'll need some variances for those. The zoning ordinance requires 10 feet setbacks from any structures to the pool. The building official is okay with the variance request for that. And then there's a patio cover. It's a really steep patio cover. And in your packet, you have photos of the backyard. And you can see how steep that patio cover is. But it's only 7 inches from where the spa will be, okay? And Ms. Gutierrez is here to speak about her request.
Okay, thank you, Meredith. Yes, ma'am, would you like to speak in favor of your request?
Hello, I'm Alexandra Gutierrez. Me and my husband, Leonel Gutierrez, are owners of 311 West Onyx, and we just wanted to request a variance for the in-ground, our backyard.
So there is going to be an in-ground pool and a spa. Is the spa also in-ground, or is it above ground?
Slightly elevated.
But all one unit, connected or not connected? Into the pool, okay. You can come up here. You guys can both stand up there.
Yeah, if you could give your name and address, please, for our records.
Leonel Gutierrez, 311 West Onyx. Yeah, the pool's gonna be in ground, and then the spa's gonna be for the most part above ground, have like a waterfall going.
Yeah.
Has there been any, are you friends with your neighbor that you share the townhome with? Has there been any opposition, Meredith, or anything from the neighbor, or
I've received no letters of opposition.
are you guys okay? Is your neighbor okay with it? Are you friends with them? 'Cause if not, you probably
gonna
will
come-
be
we're
once you
probably gonna use
get,
the pool.
yeah, once you get a pool in there, you probably be good friends.
You can't get them away now.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody on the commission have any questions of the applicant? Thank you all very much. Anybody else in the audience wishing to speak in favor of case number 21-009? Anybody in the audience opposed to case number 21-009? Okay, being none, staff, do you have any comments other than what Meredith has already shown us? Or you guys okay with all the variances? It sounds like in the packet that you are. Anybody?
No, Mr. Chairman, at this point, with this, respect to this particular case, we've worked diligently with the applicant. We're good.
Thank you. Commission, any questions of staff? None, I'd accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the variance for case 21009.
Second.
Second.
Third.
Everybody.
Fourth. Fifth.
Got a motion by Steve, who did the second?
That's all.
We have a motion by Steve and a second by Saul. And I'm assuming, Steve, that that's going to include all the findings of facts and other data that's included in the packet?
Yes, if necessary.
Okay, we would like to include that in the amendment, or in the motion, please, to include all the information in the packet. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank y'all. Y'all are welcome to leave if you want to. Let us know, please, when the pool's done. We'll all like to come over and be friends.
I don't know that either. Yeah.
Now we will hear case number 21-008, a variance to the light industrial parking, loading, unloading, and landscaping adjustments as stated in the packet. I'd accept a motion to waive the reading of the finding of facts and land use and zoning considerations, please.
I'd like to make a motion to waive the reading of the finding of the facts and land use and zoning considerations in respect to case, where'd it go?
21-008.
21-008.
Second?
We have a motion by Saul and a second by James to waive the reading of the finding of facts and land use and zoning considerations. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
David, can I say something real quick?
Sure.
I've noticed a couple different people leave during the middle of this. Were the ones that were postponed, were they told they were postponed before they came here and sat here, or no?
As far as I know, everyone was, know that there was going to be a postponement.
Okay, there
And
was a couple
certainly
people
when
that
it was
got up and
advertised,
left.
it was advertised to be postponed.
Okay, all right, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I think there was just one guy.
And then another couple walked out.
Well, that couple was with the pool.
Oh, were they? Okay. I just want to make sure.
They're the neighbors making sure they get a pool.
Okay, so this one's a little bit different, a little bit complicated. I've asked Kevin to kind of explain to us what's going on and what our role as the commission is in this case.
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Tonight, you have the opportunity to, yes, expand your role as planning commissioners. We have a project that city staff has been working diligently with the developer, certainly since before I got here last February. This project has involved Virtually every member of senior staff at one point or another, from the city manager's office, Mr. Nahar has been involved, myself has been involved, Meredith, our building officials have been involved, all the way down to our fire department and everybody else. We've had an opportunity to input on this. Of course, what we're asking you to do tonight is consider for approval the variance, case 21-008. It is a request for a variance on the existing parking, landscaping, and signage requirements in the I-1 Light Industrial District. The project itself, of course, is the Homestead Spirits Homestead Spirits Distillery, located on 2nd Street, just east of Main. The project itself is incredibly unusual because we have an old historic building there that is being renovated and brought up to date so that it can be provide a much-needed downtown destination for the city of Roswell and its residents. The project itself, of course, is going to include a distillery. It's going to include a restaurant. It's going to include a meeting halls, bar, all kinds of other good things. It is going to be a destination for downtown. The problem, like so many other downtown properties, of course, is that the existing building, for all intents and purposes, occupies 100% of the lot, or very nearly 100% of them. So there is no room for parking in the traditional sense. There is no room for landscaping in the traditional sense. The other issue, though, of course, is this is an I-1 zone. It is not the C3 zone. The C3 has some relief in our zoning ordinance that allows us to be incredibly flexible with parking, landscaping, and other requirements. The I-1 zone, though, is needed because of the distillery function here and the possibility of future shipping and other things that may come out of here. So what the applicant has asked us to do is to look at the project from the perspective of the parking, landscaping, signage, and other requirements as if the property were in the C3 zone, and that's where the request for the variance comes from. However, retain their I-1 ability to utilize the distillery and the other things that go along with this historic building. Okay. They have submitted a conceptual parking lot and site plan. As you can see, though, it would require, if they stuck with the traditional I-1 requirements, there would be significant off-site parking that would have to be developed at, obviously, at significant cost. We obviously have a stand-up or a startup business here. Money is always tight in a startup business, and they want to take advantage of every opportunity to get the project off the ground. To that end, city staff has worked with them. We have issued a number of building permits, electrical permits, mechanical permits. It's my understanding the fire department has also worked with them to ensure that they meet the fire code as well. Now, you have multiple opportunities to go through the project tonight, and you have multiple different options in front of you. Your first option is to approve the variance based upon staff's recommendations and the conditions of approval that staff have provided. Your second option is to review the variance, and then the applicant has submitted a letter lining through a number of items, some very specific items, and then approve it based upon some adjustments. Third option, if you feel comfortable with this, is to approve the variance, but send it back to staff with the understanding that staff will continue to work with the project applicant to clarify the language of the actual conditions of approval, and those will be applied at a later date. Obviously, since this is a discretionary act, you also have the ability to deny it or postpone it, send it back, and have us continue working on it. This all comes down to, again, the fact that this is a discretionary act, and it is at the discretion of the Planning Commission the direction that we move at this point. Staff is ready, of course, to recommend approval based upon the conditions that we've applied. We recommend, though, that you listen to the project proponents. They are here and ready to discuss. They have some very valid points that you may wish to consider, and then make your decision accordingly.
Any questions of Kevin from the commission before we let him? We can always bring him back up.
Yeah, we'll bring it back up.
Not yet.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of case number 21-008? Please state your name and address, please.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Isaiah Lawson. This is my wife, Carrie Lawson. We're going to speak on behalf of Homestead Spirits as partners, and the address is 2210 East 2nd Street. So originally, our request was to maintain I-1 zoning, because at heart, we are a manufacturing and production facility. Like, our goal is to create a product and ship it worldwide. Like, we have pretty big dreams. So the original request is to make it a little bit easier in terms of the code and request a C3 variance on parking and a couple other things like planters and stuff like that. Because as Kevin stated, the building takes up a lot of the room that we have. And as of right now, we have leases on the other land that we want to park cars at, but we don't own them. So for us to bring those parking lots up to code, it would cost an extreme amount of money, like hundreds of thousands of dollars to make it happen. And like Kevin said, starting up right now, money's tight, building materials are 400, 500% more than they were a year ago. And so just request that we get a variance on parking. That's kind of our main deal, and then get going from there. Thank you. I stand for questions.
Spencer, are you controlling the slides?
I can.
Whoever's controlling the slides, can you go back to the site plan that we
Yeah.
looked at? There you go. So, what I understand, you're gonna have the ability to probably go ahead and put the parking in on the alley side of the building. The stuff to the south is owned by XL. And then the area on the west side of the alley, owned by Harbor Petroleum. Those are the two that you're talking about would be leased parking, future possibility.
Yes, so as of right now, I have a 2-year lease with XL Energy on the paved parking lot that's to the south of the building. It's going to need a little bit of work to get it kind of up to standards, a little bit of striping and stuff like that, clean
It's
it
not
up.
paved right now, right?
Yes, sir. And then I have an agreement with Jeff Harvard on the other lot that's to the west, and it's just like crusher fines, kind of like a gravel lot. So the plan is to grade it and make it nice and put ballards around poles and parking stops and things like that.
And leave that one gravel?
Yes, sir. Just because of the cost it would take.
Yeah,
to-
I know. I
Well,
understand.
and spending money on property that I don't own,
Totally understand.
And any other questions of the applicant? We can bring them back up if we have further. Thank you all very much. We might bring you back up.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor of case number 21-008? Please state your name and address, please.
Yes, sir. Joe Nebb, 3102 Diamond A Drive, City Manager. I'm talking in favor of this project, and if we go back to the aerial shot as well, too, and I think Mr. Mavers covered a lot of the challenges that this property has in his starting part. This property is not an I-1 zone because the building is so big on that parcel. So however, the applicant wants to maintain the ability to go to I-1 due to the manufacturing. So in my mind, the variance makes the most sense in order to allow them the benefits of the C3, which is the contiguous zoning, and still maintain that for their future value of what they want to, what that property may eventually become. It is a difficult property for that, and so I think Mr. Mavers covered a lot of that. I think the applicant did a good job with that. We have discussed this property in great detail as to trying to find ways, and so in my mind, and I'm going to just say it in my words, the applicant is asking for time in order to get the non-life safety issues done. And so we have tentatively spoken about up to 5 years to get that done. The conditions of approval, when they are finally finalized, everybody will be on board, we'll all be clean with that, but we have the ability within planning and zoning or building code to do 180-day extensions in order to buy time through the code. So we're talking about giving them enough time to have proof of concept of the project in a property that is very difficult. I mean, if we didn't have anybody interested in changing this property, it would be a blight on our downtown. I mean, that's the big problem we have with it. So we want to continue to work with this and have that happen over a little course of time. The applicant has agreed to take care of all the life safety issues that are involved with making this building public accessible.
Could you explain to us what a life safety issue would be?
Fire suppression, exits, proper exits, fire exits, all of that stuff that's related to the life safety side. And so, is there anything else? ADA accessibility. And so all of that is all that life safety. And then, of course, the non-life safety is part of the reason why the variance is here. Parking, landscaping, signage as well are the three big ones that, when you look at the I-1, the conditions of the I-1 are so restrictive. This property could not be utilized in what they're planning on using it for if it stays the I-1. It's very difficult. I think there was over 60 spots that they were going to have for parking. You can see how large the parcel is. I think it'll be an uprise. They'll just put cars up and just move them up. I think it's how they sell cars now, though. But it's so I think that's the big thing. I just wanted to talk in favor of it. Very challenging property. I think that with the will of the applicant, this will be a very good benefit to the downtown. And so we're trying to make as much ability for the redevelopment of a property rather than a new construction. Redevelopment of property are tough. And you get into the ADA accessibility, you get into the fire suppression stuff. Half our buildings downtown are going to have challenges meeting the new codes because of those conditions that are laid on them. So I'm asking you to consider that. I would state that my favor in the options that were presented by Mr. Mavers is option 3. Approve the variance and allow the staff to continue working with the applicant on the conditions of what's the word for that? The conditions of approval. All right. So I stand for any questions as well, but I just wanted to make sure you knew that I'm very supportive of this because it's a very good reuse of an area downtown that's very difficult to deal with. We do have just probably a side note, we do have the Great Blocks project going on right next to it on the Excel property. That's where we'll be making the alleyway more pedestrian friendly. We will be putting an entertainment center on the parcel south of this building. So this is coming along at the right time for, there'll be a staging, there'll be some, everybody thinks they can grow grass there, but I'm not sure. We'll find out if that's true or not, but but I think the whole idea is that this goes into the reason why we created the MRA in the first place, is to make the downtown area more pedestrian friendly, make sure that those buildings that are old and difficult to deal with, they can continue to be vital to maintain a downtown for Roswell. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this case, 21-008? Anyone in the audience wish to speak against case 21-008? Do we have anybody online that might want to chime in, or either way? Nobody? Okay, thank you. So let me kind of go for the commission. In our packet, we have letters from Mr. Nebb. We have that Exhibit K, I think it's called, with all these different things and items required and stuff that they would like to see. And then Exhibit K that starts out like this, and I think Kevin put most of this together along with staff. And then we received a similar type deal tonight on our deal that came from the applicant that struck through a majority of items in there that they either wanted to further discuss or were not in agreement with. So what we need to do is that we can, if we want to get into each one of these items, but I think that's up to staff, and I think that's what Kevin and Joe were alluding to, that we are just approving the variance. We're not going to approve all the conditions that are still out there. So the motion should probably state something to that effect, that we move to approve the variance with conditions of approval to be further explored, or something, however, whoever's gonna make that motion, figure that out.
So if you made a motion to approve the variance with said conditions, or for staff to continue to work with applicant, my question as a small business owner would be that if they get another month or 2 or 3 down, a ways more down the road on the development or the project, or however you want to word it, and then they run into an issue with the city on parking, or a small issue, or could be a big issue, I mean, a variance can be removed. I mean, but is that something, Kevin, that you see? I know what it's like to spend this kind of money in something, and you're not even 100% sure. If we approve for just a variance, and it's not even 100% sure, and they have to continue trudging forward, spending money and time, God knows how much, I would just want to make sure that it's not going to come back and kick them in the rear, if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
Okay.
And the only thing and the only comfort I can possibly give you and the applicant at this point is that every time the applicant has run into a roadblock, a significant roadblock, staff has been there for them. At the very beginning of this project, we had essentially an all-hands staff meeting out at the site to discuss everything that was going to be necessary. As we have narrowed things down, we've been moving through, but we're getting to the point where they're getting closer and closer to the day they want to open, okay? And there are certain things that we can defer. There are certain things that we can waive. There's also certain things we cannot. The reason the conditions of approval are so lengthy in this is because we want to make sure that the applicant knows and understands exactly what it is that we cannot waive, that we cannot defer. And City Manager Nebb referred to them as life safety options, life safety requirements. Essentially, yes, public health, safety, and welfare issues are the things we cannot waive. Things like ADA requirements.
Of course.
We must have ADA parking. There must be a safe path of travel. There must be ramps leading into the building. Fire suppression, obviously, is a non-negotiable issue. It has to be done there for the safety of the people coming in. Trash enclosures, waste disposal, things like that, those have to be in. On the other hand, there are certain things like parking. The exhibit that was provided was a conceptual plan based upon the assumption that this thing would have to be parked as an I-1 development.
And that's the one you had, the
That's the
slide
big
before
one.
this one?
That's why, that was almost there, provided to show the commission and to demonstrate to staff the burden that would be placed on this one development if it was parked as if it was an I-1 type of development. 64 spaces, plus parking, plus loading zones, plus all the other things going along with it. Okay? We have the ability, of course, to defer or waive those items, which is the way it's written in the conditions of approval.
And when you say defer or waive, as in, because Isaiah, you stated that you already have the agreements for the leases for the parking, yes? So Kevin, what you're talking about is bringing up to proper standards.
Yes.
I'm referring to parking only,
Right.
is what I'm referring to.
Again, what we're hoping, and what the applicant is hoping, of course, is that because of great blocks and the project coming along, and because the city is continuing to move forward, this is in the MRA, and there's going to be a lot of activity in the MRA over the next few years, that there will be adequate public parking at some point in the future, that they will be able to utilize for their staff and for the people that are coming to the restaurant, the customers, the consumers. We agree. We absolutely agree but they need time. We need time to finish up the Great Blocks project and get that moving forward. The city needs time to look at the overall development of the MRA. But what we don't have time again, are these life safety issues. So I think the best bet, as Mr. Nebb eloquently explained, and I think everybody's in agreement, if I were to recommend a motion for the commission, is that you approve the variance with instruction to staff to continue to work diligently with the applicant to further clarify the conditions of approval to a point where everyone is in agreement and they can continue to move forward.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, that kind of,
So if we did that and someone up here figures out how to word that mess correctly, and you guys continue to work forward, and you hit a roadblock, are you going to come back to us again with something? Possibly? No? We don't know?
I'm going to say it will depend on the roadblock.
Okay.
It will depend. We cannot, and again, this is everything that you all are doing here tonight, of course, can be appealed to the city council.
Yes.
Whether it's a staff decision, whether it's a planning commission decision, whether it's a field inspection decision, all of that can be appealed to this. That just, of course, takes additional time.
Yes.
And we're beginning from their perspective, we are running out of time. We need to get this thing moving forward. So and we know that this is going to be a tremendous anchor to that part of town. It really, we hope, staff.
How long has that building been empty?
Crazy
Like
successful.
5 years? There was a batting place in there a while back, I guess, but
So,
it's just been empty for a long time.
well, you know, and the variance that we're looking at is just specifically kind of like for the parking and the landscaping, and a few other items. It does not get into all these items like signage and, you know, and things like that that are mentioned in these exhibits. And that's really what they need to work on and that we don't need to be involved with. We were just looking at,
the paragraph on things like signage and landscaping, that's more constructive notice than anything
Yeah,
else.
yeah.
Is that when they move forward, should they decide that they want to come up and, it's constructive notice. At the time they decide to move forward with their signage plans, they need to come back and see us, get an appropriate sign permit. If they want to do landscaping, they need to come back and see us, we make sure it's designed and installed and properly. So there's a tremendous amount of that I do have to agree with Mr. Pirtle, who wrote that letter, and right there. There is some redundancy, yes. There is some clarification, yes. But again, I'm a big one on specificity. I like things to be specific. I like both sides to know what they're in for, so that we don't have to end up back in front of you, that everybody's in agreement. But at this point, we've still got a little bit of negotiating to do, and discussions to do.
any other questions?
I have a question. Are we voting on just parcel 3A or 1A and 3A? All as a whole?
Should be all the whole.
It's the properties as a whole, is it?
As a whole.
Yeah. Yes.
Not just the parking?
What's that?
Not just the parking?
No, the variance affects the entire project as a whole. Okay? Again, they have to build certain things. They have to meet all the building codes, the development codes, the fire codes, ADA requirements, things like that. It's the other things, the discretionary items, the amount of parking, the placement of parking, whether or not we put any landscaping, other things that we can either waive or defer until a later date. That's where the discussion is coming from.
But technically, the variance is for the property.
Entire.
It runs with the property, yes.
So they could walk away from it tomorrow and sell the property, and that variance would still be located on that property, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, I have a question
Which is also, okay, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
You're fine.
Which is why we did put a sunset clause in a number of the items as well, though, because of that concern right there.
Okay, can we talk to the applicant again? Can we talk to the applicant again? So as far as to everything that the staff is saying, and David, I understand what you're saying, I want to make sure that what you're doing this for is just to be able to continue moving forward at where you're at right now.
Well, so as construction goes, we do have our building permits and all that approved to build it.
Okay.
What I'm really worried about is my occupancy, because we can build it and make this big grand thing, but if I don't have an occupancy permit, it's not worth anything. So what I'm working towards is getting my occupancy, my full occupancy, not a conditional occupancy, is what the end goal is, you know, to run a business here in Roswell and go that route. So in terms of the letter that I crossed out, and it's just, you know, I don't do this every day. Y'all do this a lot, but I don't. And it just gets so confusing and like clustered, and the communication, you know, going back and forth through email gets lost and all this. And what I'm really, like I said before, my biggest problem that I have is parking, because my contractor is going to build the building to code. I'm 100% sprinkled. I have ADA compliant, you know, signage and all the stuff that we need to make it, you know, non-life threatening and all that. That's all done. It's all planned out. It's ready to go. We just got to build it.
And the fire suppression stuff is been approved or done, or?
Yeah, it's already been stamped and everything.
Oh, okay.
So it just needs to be installed.
Okay, okay.
You know, we're waiting on our plumber to do a 6-inch riser in there, and then Kaufman's gonna come down from Albuquerque and do it. And that's one thing that we did early on, talking to, at that time, it was Matt Miller, the fire marshal, and he's like, what I would do is just 100% sprinkled and just get it done, you know, because as code changes, then we might be hit with another bill later on, and so we just kind of bit the bullet and, you know.
The whole building?
Just did the whole thing, because just get it over with. And so, it just, you know, no disrespect on crossing this stuff out, but I was just trying to simplify it, like get to the bread and butter, you know, the meat and potatoes, instead of all this other stuff, and just figure out what we really need, like item number 1 and 2, and all the other stuff, I just don't really agree with.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying, is that, I mean, we can sit here tonight and hash out every one of these conditions if we want to, but that's not what we're being requested to do. We are here for the variance.
Well, if the variance changes any of that, it's kind of included in there, though. I'm thinking as a small business owner, you spending all this money and you start and you're working hard to do it, and the city says you can, oh, now you can't. It's problematic. And I've talked with Kevin many times. It's people trying to spend money in the city and do good things for the city. City staff, which I'm sure you have been, but I'll reiterate myself, needs to do everything they can to assist and to help them spend money here in this town so they don't go spend it somewhere else. But we also understand fire suppression, safety, ADA, it has to be done. We understand that, but we also understand there's some areas that can be delayed, waived, cut the corner a little bit, you know, and I understand what Isaiah is saying too, as in, just tell me what the heck I have to do right now so I know what's going to happen. Problem is, when you deal with government of any type, it seems to not be simple in any simple way, so. Okay, so, David, what you're saying is make it simple, approve the variance as in, and let them continue working with the applicant.
For the conditions of approval, and a lot of that would be site plans and landscape plans and things like that would still need to be turned in. And that's kind of what Kevin had mentioned in his. I didn't go back through, you know, what you had crossed out, we just got that stuff. I think that's something, and it looks to me like everybody, like the city's bending over backwards to help these guys.
Yeah.
You know, I don't see that being an issue.
Well, the city should bend over backwards for people trying to spend money in the city.
And I think
My
they're doing
opinion.
that. I mean, you get the city manager up here going,
I-
hey, we're gonna work
I-
with them. You know, it's kind of hard to go, well, we don't know about that, Joe. You know, so I think that's what my opinion, and you guys can do, we make the motion and we vote, but that's what we do, is we approve the variance as requested and request that staff continue to work with the applicant on all the conditions of approval and other specifications, something to that.
Well, I guess my question is, all these conditions, do they have to be tied to our motion, or can that be tied to a certificate of occupancy later on? If that makes sense. Do we have to deal with those? Sorry. I guess my question is, do we have to deal with all these conditions on our variance? Or if we just approve the variance, can these be handled on a certificate of occupancy request later on?
Well, a lot of
Instead of
those
making ours
items
complicated.
a lot of these items that are mentioned in here, like working with the DOT and, the Historical Society and things
Right.
like that, in my opinion, don't really apply to the variance.
Correct.
That's not even within our scope.
Correct.
That's not even what we do, is it?
We could, like James and Jesse saying, we could sit here tonight and go over every one of these items if we
David
want
wants to
to.
go home as well.
Okay.
We are with you, we understand.
No, if you want to stay here,
I don't
my
wanna stay
God,
here. I don't want to stay here.
I'm retired, I can do anything. Except stay up late. So whatever you guys want to do.
Are you
Mr.
ready
Chairman, may I
for a
speak?
motion? Are you ready for a motion?
No, let Louis speak.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to tell you and commission that I have been in discussion with the DOT. There is no permit here for the property owner. The access is a public alley, so all dealings with the DOT will go through me. The DOT, city engineer are very much in favor of this project. We do agree that this is viable for downtown Roswell. This also goes back with Resolution 2023 that's in your project, that an MRA is for redevelopment, and redevelopment in the downtown district and the railroad districts are always tricky. They're always a challenge. But as you look in the layout, we will have one-way traffic going southbound only, so the circulation will be that way. Again, that's for the safety of the public, safety of their customers. But as city engineer, I too just want to echo that I recommend that you accept the variances and let staff continue discussions on the approval considerations for their certificate of occupancy and going on with their business. But the city engineering will be supportive of this project.
Thank you, Louis.
Mr. Chair, Commission, I was just going to reiterate that as well, too. The only concern I have with leaving the conditions of approval within the whole document is that when you read those conditions of approval, there is some tied to the other type of zoning. And I believe that there will be conditions within that conditions of approval that will be removed based upon your decision tonight on the variance. And so in my mind, I don't want the variance tied to any conditions of approval tonight, because we're going to have to work through those, because there are some things that have to change within that document based upon just changing the zoning that we're going to work under. And so that's the only thing I wanted to make sure I added to that, because I don't think we addressed it specifically that way. So it is better to approve this as a variance, as a standalone variance, rather than to include the conditions of approval, because I think some of them will change through the negotiations of staff.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think if you tie, which one do you do? Do you do, the one, Kevin, what's in our packet? Do you do the one that was here? And if you include that in there, it does tie them and limit them to, like, say you approve the one in the packet, that's the way it goes. And if number 10 came back and needed to be changed, they'd have to come back to us.
Right, we need to make a motion.
My opinion. Jesse, you okay down there?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Trying to make sure I understand all
Daniel,
this
you
mess.
okay? Everybody okay? Steve, ready for a motion?
Yes,
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move for the approval of variance 21008, with the understanding that we refer the project to the staff to complete the certificate of occupancy.
That work, Kevin?
Repeat that one more time, please, sir.
Well, my motion is to approve the variance of 21008 with the referral back to staff to complete the certificate of occupancy.
The items
Conditional.
needed to,
Is that the right word?
or the conditions of approval, or whatever you want to call them.
Well, we have to make sure we get our terminology correct. Again,
Yeah.
this is where the specifics come in.
Yeah.
We cannot issue a certificate of occupancy until some of these items that are in the conditions of approval are completed and accepted and approved. This
I
is
think,
the
Steve,
life
just-
safety items, so.
You just remove your part about the certificate of occupancy and say the conditions of approval.
All right.
Give direction to staff to continue to work with the applicant on revising the conditions of approval.
All right.
The friendly
Your
amendment.
words are my words, so we'll refer to staff. to
Meredith, just
complete
make
those
that
conditions.
wording work.
That'll work.
I have a motion, do we have a second?
Do we need to include something in there like Joe said about making it a standalone, the variance? Kevin?
Okay, I'm sorry, one more time?
Do we need to include something in there as to referring to what Joe Neeb said about making it a standalone, where stuff can continue to change? It's not tying them together like you were saying. I'm sorry, Joe, I'm misquoting you probably, but I just want to make sure it's worded properly.
Oh, the variance becomes the conditions of approval underneath the variance that are tied to the variance. That is the standalone document.
Okay.
Okay, we do not refer back to the zoning and development code. They are taken from the zoning and development code based on the interpretation. And that is where we're getting into a little bit of a gray area. And we're going to discuss that a little later on tonight, is in the interpretation, the way certain things are written in our zoning and development code. But yes, you're talking about a standalone document on a standalone project with very specific conditions of approval so they can get their occupancy.
Second.
Here we have a motion by Steve and a second by Jesse to approve the case number 21-008. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Passes. Thank you, guys. Now we have other business. But my screen over here is flipping me out here. Staff communications reports, information, and updates. That sounds like a lot. I think I'll just stick with other business. Go ahead, Kevin.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I think at one of the very first Planning Commission meetings that I attended as Community Development Director, I asked that there be a motion to waive all summer vacations because it was going to be a busy summer. It is proving to be that, and we've got a lot going on. I want to go over a few items with you guys tonight because I would like some feedback so that we can make sure that we continue to present things to the Planning Commission in a manner that not only promotes the city of Roswell in the best light. We are becoming very rapidly a development-friendly community. There are a lot of new things happening, and we want to make sure we continue to move forward. I want Commissioner McDaniel to know that I take all of his comments since the day I met you very, very seriously about what we're trying to do and how we're trying to accomplish it. But as you've seen tonight, revitalization, redevelopment, repurposing, whatever you want to call it, it's difficult. There are always compromises. You cannot anticipate every single contingency. We have to sit down and negotiate in good faith so that we can make sure that certain things are met and that we go ahead and provide the best possible project, not only for the applicant, but also for the residents of the city of Roswell, the people of Roswell. So what I'd like to do is begin this right off the top with a policy statement. I began the meeting tonight by talking about the number of items that we've had to pull from the agenda and postpone. The primary reason is because we are not getting in a timely fashion the information that we request from the developers. Some of this is key information that we need in order to process things properly. Okay? Anyway, what we want you to know, since the beginning of the calendar year, staff has received a number of requests by the project applicants to go ahead and set items for public hearing. We need to get things on the public hearing, and we know there's a sense of urgency. When you've got a project, okay, we have found ourselves in a position of setting things for public hearing without having adequate information from the applicant, with the understanding, at least we thought, that additional information was to be provided in a timely fashion. it hasn't been provided. Then we end up having to pull items from the agenda after the staff report's been prepared, after the information has been advertised, after money has been spent on all the advertising and everything else, and then we end up pulling it off the agenda, upsetting everybody because they think something might be coming or might be getting set, and it's causing some problems. We don't want to do, we'd like to not do that anymore. So after listening to the concerns from several project applicants, city staff agreed to set items for public hearing. Okay? Unfortunately, as I said, several projects have failed to provide the additional information requested, resulting in a processing delay. Okay? Delays have resulted in significant additional costs. Just to give you an idea, I had Meredith run up some numbers. Just project advertising alone on each of these projects, and these are direct costs to the city, where we put the item in the newspaper, where we send out the letters to the adjacent property owners and everything, are running anywhere between $500 and $1,000 per project per advertising period. Okay? We collect on average $200 per project for processing it. And that doesn't include, of course, the city time, staff time, to pull things off the agenda, to rewrite things, to do the notifications and answer questions, all the other things that we do. Staff would like to discuss the creation of a formal policy statement that would require incomplete project applications to be held back from being placed on the Planning and Zoning Commission agenda until such time as staff has received all necessary and proper information to allow for city staff to create a complete staff report and provide the information necessary for the Planning and Zoning Commission to make fully informed decisions. To give you an example, we have a number of projects coming forward that require multiple reviews and multiple approvals. They may require a summary plat. They may require a zone change. They may require a conditional use permit or a special use permit, all for one project, because we're getting a lot of revitalization or repurposing projects coming forward. And you're going to be very excited to hear about some of the stuff that's happening. Okay? But because everything has to hang together, we cannot process a preliminary plat without knowing what the final site plan is going to look like, because the preliminary plat is going to adjust lot lines. We don't want them to have to go back and adjust lot lines 2 or 3 or 4 times. Okay? The zone change. You have every right and a responsibility to the public to know what is being built. If you're being asked to rezone a piece of property from R2 to C2 or C3, not only you, but the neighbors around there that are looking at you have every right to know exactly what is going to be built there. And we can't set conditions of approval or advise the Planning Commission accordingly until we have the site plan worked out. So we don't want to be pushing forward any more blind zone changes, any more unprepared preliminary plats. We want to bring things to you guys as a package, and you'll approve it. You'll see it. You'll be approving zone change 21-005, site plan 21-006, conditional use permit 21-007. You'll bring it all, and you'll vote for the entire package at one time and move it forward. Informed, not only yourselves, but also the community as a whole, so everyone knows what's going. So we don't have to discuss it tonight, but I would like you all to be thinking about it. We'll bring it forward next month as a formal discussion item, and we would like feedback in that time. How do you feel about creating a formal policy statement that basically says we're not going to bring things to the Planning Commission until we know exactly what it is we're going to be voting on?
You know, Kevin, I think that's a good idea, and I think another thing that might need to look at, might be a little bit harder, would be to impose additional fees on an applicant if you're not going to put it on there, if all the information, what you're saying here with this, you're not going to advertise it without all the information, but if it gets pulled between the time of advertisement when you have everything in the meeting, then it has to be re-advertised, some of those costs, if not all of them, should be not borne by the city, but should be passed back to the applicant.
I think that's actually a very good idea. That's something staff has been talking about. It would incentivize, I guess, or disincentivize, one of the two, the applicant, the project applicant. If we say, we're going to put something on the August agenda, and we need to have all of our information by such and such a date, and if you don't provide it to us by that date, then we have to pull it from the agenda, and you will have to pay for the fees for re-advertising.
Yeah, but
Is
you're
that-
saying here with this one, you're not even going to put it on the agenda if it's incomplete.
If it's incomplete, we're not even going to do that. Now,
Right, so-
if they,
but if
if
they-
they insist,
If it's complete and it's on the agenda, and they request
they
it
choose
be
to remove
pulled,
it.
Yeah.
then it should come back on
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
If-
But you
if-
shouldn't put anything on there like these first three, like tonight. If they were incomplete and it was the, say, okay, we got to advertise it, and the guy says, oh, I'll have it to you Monday. You guys with this statement, you need to say that's not happening.
Good.
You have everything to us before we advertise it. If we advertise it and you request it be pulled, it's going to cost you.
Understood. I agree. We'll put together something in a formal manner for consideration next month, okay? If you have any other ideas or suggestions, you certainly have my email, you have Meredith's email, to send it to us with your ideas. We'll take them all, we'll put together something into a formal policy statement, present it next month for your review and approval.
Can I make a comment real quick? And, I think when we first talked, we first met down at City Hall, we are talking about, working on something to where the city kind of more or less serves as a concierge to figure out where you need to go to get a project done. Some of us, when we're brand new, and I think quite of us, have dealt somewhere in a small business here and there, and so we're not familiar with rules, zoning. I didn't know zoning laws existed until you have to, until you find out this, someone comes and tells you.
Because someone says you can't do that.
Until someone tells you can't.
But I
do
own the
something.
property, but you can't do that.
Just not long ago, Lewis, he helped us, we were doing, they were doing the ADA down at Cerritos, and if it wasn't for him, he kind of helps us out, no, we can do this, and they were about to close our Main Street entrance, and he remembers that, he helped us out, and we're able to find a happy place to where DOT's happy, city's happy, and we're happy. And sometimes it feels it's not that way, and I think it's kind of what you were alluding to earlier, is that some inspectors or the people in city staff, and I get it, some of us are not people, and I completely understand that. Some people are engineers and some people are salespeople. There's two different kinds of attitudes, and that's completely understandable. I think, but at the very least, direct you to a right person who can help you achieve something. And I think all of this, what you're talking about today, if, I didn't know I had to come back for this also, and then this, and then this, and then this. But just exactly what you're talking about today, I think that's perfect.
Yeah, anything you can do to simplify it and give them everything up front is we're gonna be okay with. I mean, I'm speaking for myself, but.
I agree completely, and I mean.
And I think that's what Kevin's trying to do. That's what we first talked about, is simplify and.
And I think that's where they're headed.
Yeah.
And they just will help whenever we can. 'cause
Yes,
we all
absolutely.
understand.
The overarching goal in the Community Development Department is to streamline and simplify. Streamline and simplify. To that end, we have a number of initiatives working that we're not quite ready to announce yet.
You mean you're not done yet already, Kevin?
No, not quite, not quite. But we are working on it. But simplification, streamlining, making sure that when people come to the counter, when they come to see us, that they are walked through the process, they understand. But as you can imagine, the further we dig into the process, the more we find things that need to be fixed. A big part of it has to do with, like I spoke about earlier this evening, is specificity and clarification in our ordinance. There's a number of sections in our zoning and development ordinance that are, to say, open to interpretation. And I'm sure if I put one line or two lines about a couple of things in that ordinance in front of all six, supposedly seven of you, you would probably all have a different interpretation of how to apply that particular code. So when I bring to you conditions of approval like this, and they're very specifically worded, it's because we're trying to make sure that we are clear in our needs and our requirements, and that the applicant also understands exactly what they need to do. So we're working on that. It's yes, still a bit ambiguous at this point and open to interpretation, but we're trying to close up some of those gaps. But having said that, redevelopment, revitalization, there's always going to be a negotiation point. Greenfield development, ground up, brand new, most of the time it's going to be pretty easy. But it's this repurposing, the revitalization. when we're working with things that just don't fit.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the second thing. This is going to be fun. This is what I get to spend my summer on. We, as you all are aware, the state of New Mexico passed the cannabis ordinance, their commercial version of a commercial cannabis ordinance. We are doing our best to get out in front of it right now. And I've attended several meetings with local residents, with local groups. Obviously, we're meeting internally, city staff. We've even taken information from a couple of the municipalities here in New Mexico. Unfortunately, there's enough ambiguity in the state law that we are left with interpreting it our own way and attempting to apply these. But I wanted to make you all aware that things are going to be happening very fast. No later than September 1st, the state wants to create the Regulatory Advisory Committee, which means we have to be ready for that and beginning accepting processing licensing applications. Well, the licensing process begins with finding a location, planning and zoning, in order to build your cannabis facility. So we are going to be working aggressively. We introduced Spencer earlier tonight. Spencer is going to be working with me side by side on trying to get this thing pulled together as quickly as possible. So you'll be seeing a lot of activity in pulling the cannabis ordinance together. But just to give you an idea of just the planning and zoning issues, not taxation, not regulation, not anything else. These are just the planning and zoning issues. We have to determine where we're going to site cultivation projects, and there's 4 different types of cultivation permits: a micro, small, medium, and large scale, depending on the total number of plants being grown. You have processing facilities where you take the raw plant material and turn it into usable product. You have manufacturing facilities. These are where you produce the gummies and you produce all the topicals and the ointments and everything else that comes out of it. Then you have distribution. How do you get it out to distribution centers? Okay. Retail sales, that's your dispensaries. On-site consumption is included in the state ordinance. This is essentially your cannabis lounges that we have to decide how we're going to deal with. And then last but not least, special cannabis events as well. All of these things need to be addressed. All of our code needs to be updated. It's our goal to create an integrated ordinance that will discuss everything from the definitions of what this all means through the taxation process, the development process, the zoning, conditional use permits, everything else that goes along with it. For your consideration, and this is where feedback will be welcome, okay? What zoning districts do you believe are appropriate for cannabis development, cannabis consumption, things like that, okay? Would you like us to consider the use of an overlay zone as well, where you would have the opportunity, every project coming in would have to apply for a zone change, and that would force them to come before you and discuss your project, okay? Conditional use permit is another way to get people in front of you to discuss the project as a whole and what's going on, okay? Separation distance. The state ordinance is very specific about schools, but they do not discuss other places where children gather and have the expectation that they will not be inundated by marijuana smoke and other things. But we can talk about schools, churches, playgrounds, parks, etc. One of the things we actually found that the city of Albuquerque has proposed, the prohibition areas. In other words, this area is off limits because of the expectation that this area will be developed in a certain way. They're setting aside their entire historic district. There will be no cannabis facilities whatsoever in their old historic district. We have a historic district right here in Roswell. Is that appropriate to have cannabis facilities in the historic district? Or should that be a prohibited area? Those will be up for consideration and discussion. Then we get to the development requirements themselves. One of the things you'll be asked to do is, shall we limit cannabis development to indoor-only facilities? Or should we allow outdoor grows as well? And last but not least, security issues. Security is a big deal, especially since most of these facilities have limited access to banking. It's almost all cash and carry. So security, facility security becomes a big, big issue. So again, all for your consideration. If you'd like to know more, I can direct you to certain websites. We are start gathering information right now, but we start writing tomorrow. That was a note to the guy at the end of the dais here to pay attention. We start writing tomorrow.
So are we going to be seeing something next month about the cannabis stuff, or be a few months, or?
We will bring the actual information. I will be making regular reports and regular updates beginning next month to the legal committee, the standing legal committee. We will probably be in a position to provide you all with standing updates and reports and get your feedback as well. Ultimately, we need to get at least a portion of this. We're going to, because it is so large, we're going to proceed in a very logical, rational fashion. We're going to do a framework for the ordinance. This is going to take up an entire chapter in the municipal code. We aren't going to try to amend our zoning code, amend our municipal code in the various sections. We're going to set aside an entire chapter. I've already worked this out with Parker, and we're going to be working forward, looking, so there will be an entire chapter in the municipal code called commercial cannabis. And we will be dealing with everything from soup to nuts, from top to bottom.
And what is the date that it's for the state, that everything's fully legal, or is there different dates, right?
Yeah, there's different dates. We need to have something in place or very close to being in place, at least a plan for having it in place, no later than September 1.
Of this year?
Of this year.
Okay.
Of this year. Yeah, some of this stuff is pushed out a little further, okay? Now, being realistic, do I, having seen what happened in Colorado, California, and other places, expect that the state will make those dates?
Probably not.
I would find it, if I were a betting man, odds would be they're going to delay the rollout. Okay? But that doesn't mean we cannot be ready.
Yeah.
We must be ready.
Question or comment?
All right, let's get to the
Hold
fun
on,
stuff.
Kevin, hold on.
Oh, yes, sir.
Let me just suggest that the New Mexico Municipal League may be a good resource in finding out how other communities are handling this. You mentioned Albuquerque, but maybe some communities that are more our size would be more applicable. But at any rate, they should be they know what's going on in other places, so I would use them as a resource as to what's happening. I think everybody's in the same boat, but at least we might row this thing together.
That's actually a suggestion that I made in the meeting we had just yesterday morning, was that an additional resource is the New Mexico Municipal League. In California, when there were some issues still pending, it was actually the California League of Cities that put pressure on their legislature to make some pretty good changes that protected cities. And so, yes, we've already discussed that. But realistically, last week I received 6 different phone calls from Hobbs, from Clovis, from Las Cruces, and 3 others, all wanting to know what we're doing. So
You're about to call them?
I'm not sure if my reputation precedes me or not when it comes to dealing with cannabis issues, but all I know is the phone calls. Many cities in the state are looking to Roswell for leadership on this issue.
Are those issues personal or professional?
Professional.
And I've already had people asking me about renting places for stuff, and I'm like, I don't say I can't make a decision right now on renting one of the properties to do some of this, because I know we haven't talked about it yet.
Yeah,
Have
and that's
you guys been
why
talking with the county too on what they're gonna do, or?
county's going to be difficult, but yes, I've reached out to my partner at the county and left a couple of messages for her. Haven't talked to him yet, but we're going to find out what the county is doing as well, because the county, of course, all the agricultural areas that border our city are controlled by the county, and we already have a number of areas where existing industrial hemp farms could easily be converted to commercial cannabis, almost overnight.
He told me, somebody from over there told me that they were gonna look to ban any type of growing or farms or anything in the ETZ. So that's gonna directly affect us, because if we have one in an I-1 here, and it's county there, and they're not gonna let them do it, I can see issues.
Well, the other issue we're hoping to engage them on is the ETZ, the Extraterritorial Zoning Commission, and talk to them about how do we work together to protect Roswell as well as protect the county. So we're working on all those angles, but it's all moving very, very fast. I wanted to give you all just a quick update, let you know that we're on top of it, we're not ignoring it, and things will be happening very quickly over the next few months. Last item. Okay. A month or two ago, I came and I said, do you guys have any idea how busy we are? Because there is an impression from some people in the community that there's just not a whole lot going on. So I've gone ahead and updated the Housing and Development Report for y'all, added a few things to it. But just to give you an idea, I've broken it down. January 1 to April 23rd, the last time I presented, we had these basic permits that were issued up to that point. 125 of them, an additional 34 just in the 1 month from April 24th to May 30th, for a total of 159, a variety of different permits. Residential permits, projects and permits are reviewed, 59. Multifamily projects continue to be moving forward significantly, and in fact, we expect to see a number of new multifamily projects coming forward in July and August as well. The commercial development continues to move forward. As I said, there's a number of projects. We can't announce them to you yet because formal applications have not been made, but you're going to see a significant number of revitalization type projects, a significant number of projects that are going to be renovated, updated, and a lot of money going to be spent in the city of Roswell over the next 6 to 12 months, just bringing existing facilities up to date and up to current marketing and development standards. Some other commercial development that we have going here. Okay. Other signs, again, not a whole lot going on in the world of signs. People are concentrating on their development, so not a whole lot of change since the last time I brought up that issue. Zoning violations, okay, we're actually seeing a slight decrease in the total number of zoning violations, which is good. What we're finding is more and more people are coming into our office. A lot more people are coming into our office. In fact, when we get to the next couple of slides, you'll realize why we need additional people on staff, because Meredith spends most of her time getting up from her desk, talking to people, going back to her desk, writing people up. She's just constantly in motion with people coming to the door, answering the phone, and this is, so yeah, she's earning her keep, and we're very proud of the work that she's been doing. Okay? Building and inspection. Now, this is just for the month of May. I forgot to ask them for a summary for year-to-date as well, but you can see the total number of permits that are being applied for by the various different permit types. General building, commercial, and residential, increasing month over month considerably this year. Okay, this was an issue I did find this, business license applications versus business license issued. We've had some problems at our business license department, primarily computer related. The amount of effort it takes to input the data has been overwhelming. We've managed, this was the first area we began streamlining with online applications. We now take our credit cards by the phone, over phone, and we're able to issue the business licenses and things online now via email and other things. So what I wanted you to see was that even though last month we took in that number of business licenses, the vendor permits, the number we actually issued on every type was greater than the licenses we accepted. So we're catching up on that backlog. We're servicing that backlog. We're getting things out quicker than we had to do before. Okay? Code enforcement, again, just for information, you're seeing a increase in some areas. This is because of our code enforcement office's continued activity, aggressive enforcement of code violations, but you're also seeing some decreases in some areas, and this is because more and more people are getting into compliance and our active enforcement measures are being effective. Wanted to give you all a summary so you guys don't forget how busy you are as well. Okay? January, of course, we didn't have any meetings. February, you had 4 cases before you. March, we had a no meeting. We just had our workshop. April, a couple of other items before you. And then, of course, today, May, the May cases, we've got those put in there as well. Okay? Something's missing. There's only 4 up there. We had 5 items. Oh, no, that was last month. I'm sorry. That was last month. That was May. So you can see we had 5 on the agenda tonight, so the total number of cases even coming before the Planning Commission is increasing as well. So, I think the doldrums of COVID-19 are slowly waning. We're seeing increased activity. We have pent-up demand in the housing market that is still yet to be met. And so we're very excited about what you're going to see the rest of this year and into next year.
Well, and seeing as how our caseload has gotten bigger, I think we would probably all be requesting a raise from what we're making now.
You could double our salary.
Talk to the
Kevin.
man in the coat back there.
Anybody got any questions or comments? on
I
any
got
of
a
this?
comment. Mr. Chair. You said we're going to be getting busier, which is great. But one thing I'd like to ask is if we could get this information from our packets in a sooner time or fashion, because I don't have enough time. And I'm speaking for myself. I've been here for less than a year, but I've had less than a week to review all these cases. Is there any way we could get these cases to us, to let us review them?
We are aggressively working on that as well. That is one of the things that Meredith and I, because it's for the last month almost, better part of a month, it's just been the two of us. And you're seeing the results of some of the activity. What you're not seeing is all the other things that are going on.
I know you're busy too, but you keep saying.
But the answer
we need to make a
is
full-informed decision. In order to do that, I need more time.
Yeah. The answer
So
to
that's
your
all.
question is we will work to make sure that you get the information you need sooner rather than later
Great.
from now on. Gentlemen?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any other business from anybody? Yes, sir. We are into public comments. Are you a public comment?
I am, yes, I am.
You
Thank
can
you.
state your name and address, please.
Absolutely. My name is Justin Crable. I work with Atwell. I'm a consultant to Allsups, and my address is 1250 East Deal Road, Suite 300, Naperville, Illinois, 60563. Now, it's a lot. So, what I wanted to talk about tonight is we had a petition on the agenda. It was, I think, case number 3, if I'm remembering correctly. And I think the suggestion that Kevin and Meredith had regarding the policy statement is timely. We've tried to get a project in front of you all for a few months now, and just haven't had good luck, and so I just kind of want to share our experience with our interactions here to get our project in front of you for a vote. My client's frustrated. We met with staff in January. We were welcomed with warm, open arms. My client wants to redevelop 2515 West 2nd Street with a brand-new C-store. It's an Allsups right in the west side of town as you head out of town.
It's on the corner of Sycamore and West 2nd?
Sycamore and West 2nd.
Okay.
We met with staff, were told what the submittal requirements were, prepared those documents, which includes, the project includes a rezoning, a vacation, and a consolidation of property. So we prepared what was asked of us. We submitted it on April 30th. We thought we were going to be on the May 25th agenda. A couple days prior to that meeting, we were told we were not on the agenda and that there was a ton of issues with the project. However, we had never received any formal communication from staff on what those issues were. So a few days later, we did get a list of items, pretty lengthy list of items that were requested of our client that really had nothing to do with the rezoning and wasn't part of the plat of consolidation or wasn't part of the vacation. Site plan related matters. Very expensive road improvements were requested of us that have really tipped the budget on the project to the point where our client's not even sure they want to spend the money anymore. I don't know if you are aware of how many properties Allsups has here in the town, in the city of Roswell. It's quite a few. And they have plans to redevelop around, right now I know of 60 active projects that they want to redevelop. Some are here, others are in other communities. So I just wanted to come tonight and share my frustration with the fact that we were postponed yet again tonight for another month, and our client's active, ready to put a shovel in the ground. We're willing to give the city what they want in terms of application documents, but the road improvement asks of our client that aren't warranted by our traffic study, they're just going to kill the project. I just got done hearing everybody say how much money we want spent in this community. We want to spend money here too. We want to get there, but within reason. So I don't have anything else to say other than I think that the policy statement that you touched on tonight is very critical to help guide developers here in this community on what needs to be submitted when and to what end. We thought we knew what that was. We submitted what was asked. So that's all I have tonight. I appreciate it. We look forward to working with the city and getting this project to the finish line. Because as it sits right now, the road improvement costs that are being asked of us are significant.
You know, and I think if we can separate some of those issues, like the gentleman's saying, is like road improvements or utilities or whatever, if they're not part of the zone change, and, I mean, I don't know how much information you need to do a zone change or do a replat or a vacation of an easement or an alley. Do they have to have road plans designed and things like that? I think that's kind of what I'm getting from this gentleman, and
I think the ordinance, sorry to interrupt, but the ordinance really doesn't say any of this. I think, like Kevin was saying, there's a lot of gray area there. It just needs to be cleaned up so it's crystal clear what is the expectation.
yeah, and I think these guys are working towards that. You know, Kevin, do you have anything to rebuttal or anything to say about those or what happened or what we can, your thoughts?
Again, there's, part of the reason that I brought forward the need for this policy statement is that the particular project that Mr. Crable is referring to is exceedingly difficult for many, many respects. Number one, of course, it's at the intersection of Syracuse and Sycamore and 2nd. The intersection itself is offset. It's already, especially the Sycamore left turn pocket backs up morning and night significantly. The amount of improvements that they're putting in there, they're going from a very small 2-pump island to a 10-pump island just for gasoline, an additional 3-pump island for diesel.
Yeah, auto diesel.
2 charging stations, 2 or 3 charging
Three
stations?
charging stations.
3 charging stations, and a nearly 6,000 square foot mini mart. Okay? With an additional 25,000 square feet undetermined at this point, large enough for a fast food restaurant.
Could I interrupt you for a second? There's no plans for a future retail building. This is solely a C-store that occupies the whole property. So we'll be removing the existing retail and the existing restaurant that's out there that's not occupied today and putting a brand-new 6,000 square foot C-store. And we can get into the details when we do get in front of you to present the actual project. But I just wanted to clarify that.
Anyway, the issue comes down to the fact that the original engineer on the project submitted a summary plat at the beginning. I looked at it, city engineer looked at it, and we determined that because of the type of project that we were doing and the amount of work being done, it didn't qualify as a summary plat, that a normal preliminary plat had to be submitted. We have vacations of easements, we have a number of other things. But at the same time, because of these concerns over the intersection and the possible need to dedicate additional right-of-way at the corner in order to make appropriate right turn movements, again, the determination was made that we needed to hold off on the filing of the preliminary plat until such time as we had a site plan. This is also the reason that the zone change was held up. Again, the zone change, this property, of course, is immediately east of Enchanted Hills, right there, and you're significantly expanding the amount of commercial activity on this corner immediately adjacent to some single-family residential. Okay? I don't believe that it's appropriate for the Planning Commission to be making a decision on a zone change and a preliminary plat unless we can present to you a site plan so that you know exactly what is going to be, what you're approving, you know exactly what you're getting built. So we're working diligently with Mr. Crable and his team to resolve some of these issues, and I don't disagree. The amount of work that needs to be done at that intersection is significant, The traffic that is not only existing there currently, but also is anticipated at that intersection as the city continues to grow, and especially as properties further to the north on develop, is going to honestly drive his success. That's why they're putting in a 10-bay island, as well as a 3-bay diesel and 3 more charging stations. It's a major change to that intersection. Significant increase in every aspect, in every way. And we need to make sure that everything is done properly, because once this facility is built, we hope that Allsups and Yesway and the whoever is the operator there operates for 20 years very, very successfully. But we also have to make sure that it's safe for the traveling public.
Has there been a traffic study submitted to the DOT?
We have prepared a traffic study. We've worked with Francisco Sanchez there at District 2. It has not been submitted to the DOT yet. We're waiting for a complete package to give to Mr. Sanchez, his permitting crew.
You met Jawadi?
Well, Jawadi's no longer there now,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I know. Louis, how do you guys do that? Do you defer the study to the state in a case like that, or do you require something different?
No, we're both looking at the same study. The DOT and city engineering both agree that the study is weak, and we do not agree with the recommendations made by the study. So the DOT is hesitant, as well as the city engineer is hesitant as far as the traffic is going, because, again, safety of the public, I feel that Allsups will be very, very busy. It's going to be a very nice facility. It's a nice facility what they're doing. It's a bigger one, but neither the DOT nor myself, the city engineer, are comfortable with their traffic study and their recommendations at this time.
Are you taking the Choose building? Is that what,
that's correct, yep.
The whole block.
The whole block is owned
The whole
by
block.
Allsups.
Kremlin own any of that?
Negative. It's
To the east, they do.
It's Sequoia to Sycamore, first to third. I mean, second to third. So that whole block will be their facility. And that's what makes it very difficult, plus the offset traffic light. You've all seen the traffic back up there for the schools, for the rush hour, the circulation of getting their customers in safely and egress safely, along with the conflict of the traffic movements on 2nd Street and Sycamore, is what I'm looking at as a city engineer, along with little things like drainage.
If you come up to the podium, please, and state your name and address.
Yes, my name is Yolanta Zalkowski. I'm the property owner of 2601 West 3rd, directly to the proposal gas station. And I have a little bit concern because, I'm not against the gas station and the convenience store, but we are the only 2 residential property on the 3rd Street, left right now. If they rezone the commercial property, and the scale, what they're saying, they're gonna build the gas station, is gonna be huge. And we don't wanna have right by our residential property, the big semi-truck park or, running all night long, when we have, residential property right to the gas station. And this is mostly our concern.
Okay.
Because
Ma'am,
right now,
we're not hearing the case.
I understand, but
So-
you're talking, but you never.
We're just talking about issues
never
we're
get
having
any
between. So you will
plans.
have your opportunity whenever this case comes before us, which we're assuming will be next month, to get up and voice your concerns.
I know, but I want to, because if it's for discussion, I want to maybe the engineering, consider, then do not put anything too close, because my voice is going to be only one against everybody. And if
Well,
they're
that's not
gonna-
necessarily true. I mean,
Because we are surrounded by all commercial property.
right.
It's only
But
two.
what I'm trying to explain to you is we understand, but what you're telling us tonight doesn't
I
have any
completely
bearing on the case or anything. And that
I
will be-
completely understand, but if you're discussing the building, the property, the gas station, I think so is my concern is to raise the voice, what about the residential property, what is only left to the bird sanctuary, what is supposed to be built?
Right.
So,
Good. Just save all those concerns, either get with this gentleman right here after the meeting, or come back to our next meeting whenever the case comes up. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Meredith is going to provide this lady with her business card, and she can come and talk to us as well.
Okay.
But to address her concerns, I do have to give credit to Justin and his team. Now, they have increased, there is significant separation between the house and the development. Most of the development is shoved very forward, and the on-site retention basin also is placed between those homes. You got Third Street, the retention basin, and then an additional very large setback before you get to the actual facility. You'll see that on the site plan, but we are taking those concerns. We are addressing those concerns already.
Bring those concerns with you when we hear the case, would you please?
Yes.
No, I think, these guys are, willing, they're making strides forward to be more development friendly and stuff. And, I think, I apologize that things happened that didn't come, but they're also, like Kevin was saying, some of that's our fault. They come in here with a zone change or a plat and asking us to make these changes, and we have no idea if what's going to go there.
Right.
And so that's kind of where the part came back from them that we have requested from city staff. Well, can we see a site plan? What's going to go here? They tell us that, we're thinking it's going to be, a retail store, and then it turns out it's a dairy.
Right.
Or something. So that's part of that problem has come from us, not all on them.
Like I said, I think we just got caught in the crosshairs, and I do encourage the refinement to the code to eliminate this sort of situation down the road. But I think we'll get there. Like I said, my client asked me to caution everyone that what's being asked is a tall order, and that's why we weren't able to turn around the request from staff to get things back in a timely fashion, because that was just such a significant ask of us.
Right. Well, I would, just from my own experience, the DOT, Lewis has got a lot of say out there on those roads because Sycamore is a city road, but the DOT has control over the highway. You need to be working with those guys. You need
Sure.
to get them on board. And now that Jawadi's gone, it'll be a little easier. Maybe
I'm not
who
sure.
took Jawadi's position?
Jim, the former maintenance engineer, is back.
Who?
James, Sconholder with the S.
Huh.
He's back in that
Oh.
position.
Oh, I know who you're talking
Yeah,
about. Okay.
he went from maintenance he was in Carlsbad, now he's back in Roswell.
Who's the permitting agent out there? Is it still Lonnie?
Negative, it's somebody else. They're going through a lot of changes.
Yeah, okay.
We were told recently it was, yeah.
Jim's traffic engineer, he was asking about the technician underneath.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah, there's permitting agents, and then that's, anything else you'd like to say?
No, I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you again. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Any other comments, public comments? Any further reports or announcements? I have one little item that I was looking back on, that on the case 21008, we had that case on the table. We never pulled it off the table. I don't know if that's a issue. We heard the case, but we did not pull it off the table.
Chair Story, Commissioners, yes, and I realized too that maybe the reading of the finding of facts was waived as well, but it was tabled. It should have been removed off the table and then heard.
Is that, we want to make a motion, pull it off the table right now? Okay. Yeah, we just all
At this
need to-
point, Mr. Chairman, it's going to have to be re-advertised and set for a a future date. They're still working on significant issues as well, drainage primarily.
That was 08.
Oh,
No, that was Mr. Pirtle's case.
no, I think we're good. We're good.
Anything else? Okay, we are adjourned.